Hey everybody, happy Friday to you. Welcome back to Just Keep Parenting. Glad you could join us today. Um, we've been talking about passive and aggressive and flip-flopping. Um, if you haven't joined us before, this is the book that we're talking about. It's easy to love, difficult to discipline. And part of what we have to do is figure out where we stand, right? And so on page 78 to 80 today is what we're going to be talking about. And we're trying to figure out whether we're passive, right? And so when we want to be assertive, when our goal is to be assertive, right? The key phrase is clarity, right? We need to be clear with what we're trying to say. When we're passive, we aim to please, right? We tend to be a people pleaser. My friend Emma has a really great video out on Are You a People Pleaser? On Therapy in a Nutshell. I give a shout out to her. But we aim to please. It's not about being clear. And so the difference there is when we're assertive, we're clear. When we're passive, we want people to like us. We want to please people, right? So when we're passive with children, our words can manipulate or even beg them, right, to behave. And as we do this, then we turn over our power to our children. We all have power, right? Our power is the ability to have an effect on the world. And yet when we give our power to kids, we can't be very effective with what we're doing. So we're going to talk about that today, how to figure that out. And so I was recalling as I was preparing for this today that I go out to dinner with some of my friends, and sometimes they'll say to me, "Where are we going to dinner?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Where should we go?" And they're like, "Well, you make that decision," because we have to make that decision all the time. They have families, and I don't. I'm like, wait, what's fair about this, right? How come I always have to be the decision maker? And I have another group of friends that I go to dinner with as well. And it just is, it's better, right? Because they take a turn one month and I take a turn the next month. They take a turn one, and so it's just, it feels better. It feels like we're both empowered, we're both clear, right, in what we want. And that doesn't mean that if we want to go to the salmon fry and it's my turn, right, that they're like, no, that's really, we go to the salmon fry and we get back on track again, right? I love that relationship, and I feel like I don't always have to be the decision maker for there, right? So it's good for our relationship. But if you think about passiveness, right? One of the things that I hear quite often is, honey, I'm talking to your teacher. Let me finish. Let me finish and I'll be right back, right? Rather than saying, sweetie, I'm talking to your teacher. My eyes are looking at her. And so when I finish, when my eyes look at you, that'll be your turn to talk, right? Or having them hold your hand, right? Hold my hand until I'm finished talking with your teacher, right? So you're not giving away your power, right? You're not transferring that to the children. As you look at passiveness, one of the things that, if you tend to be passive, one of the things that you might do is you rarely express your feelings, right? Because you're afraid. You want to be a people pleaser. You want people to like you, and so we don't necessarily express our desires because we think that might be taken the wrong way, right? Are they the right desires? We might think, am I supposed to be thinking this way, right? And so then we have this inner conflict within us, right? But sometimes they'll drop hints. Well, it's been a really long time since we've been out to dinner at such and such a place. Well, just say it. We haven't gone to Spicy Thai in a while. Great, that's a great idea, right? Rather than just saying, well, it'd be nice. I don't know. Do you guys think that'd be a good idea, right? And so that passiveness just kind of takes over, right? I want to read you something from the book today. This is a great example, and we see this happen quite often, but I think Dr. Bailey succinctly says it better than I can. Susan, a mother of 3, announced to her children that soon they would all go to run errands. I need you children to cooperate. I need you, right? Could you try to be helpful? Her oldest, Sean, began to whine. I don't want to go. Can I stay home alone? Other kids my age do it. You treat me like a baby, and it's not fair. He stomped angrily throughout the house. Susan replied, You're not a baby. You're the oldest. Can't you just help me? We'll talk about staying home another time, okay? Ooh. Sean began to plead, please, Mom. Finally, Susan said, all right, but just this once. Right? Susan then turned to the younger children and asked, are you ready to go? She noticed that Amber had just removed her shoes and she was drying. Frustrated, Susan said, why did you take your shoes off? Didn't you hear me say we're going? Can you put them on? Let's not start this today, okay? Ignoring her mother, Amber continued drying. Steaming, Susan shouted, Amber, stop drying. Don't make me send you to time out. Really? Can the child make us? Amber continued drying. Susan spewed more empty threats. I'm warning you, this is not very nice. Why are you doing this? So I want to visit with us about that because we've all probably said things like that, right? We've all probably been in that moment where it's like, I am so in my brainstem right now. But I want to kind of go through and kind of dissect what happened in this today, right? So, because Susan pretty much committed all of the bad parenting skills, right? If we want to be assertive, right? If you want to be passive, she did a nice job of that, right? So, let's talk about this. You ask your child to accomplish a vague, indeterminate task, right? And so when Susan says, could you try and be helpful? What is that? What does that mean? Could you try and be helpful, right? Sometimes we need to, I was reading a lesson plan today, and one of the teachers said, we will pay attention to, the B's and the P's. And my feedback to her was, what does pay attention mean to this age group, right? Once they get to be older, 7, 8, they totally get what pay attention means. But to this age group, we need to spell that out, right? So that they can understand. And that's what Susan didn't understand in this scenario. And so try to be nice, try to clean up, right? What does try mean? Try to do that, right? The other thing that Susan did was she asked questions about her child's behavior that failed to communicate what she wanted them to do, right? Why did you take your shoes off? Her shoes need to be on, right? So where should you be? Was that nice? Was that nice? That's so hard for them to figure out what they're supposed to be doing, right? When we don't ask questions that help them know what to do, right? We think they're misbehaving when in reality, they don't know how to behave because it's just a little bit vague for them. The third thing is we don't follow through on consequences, and we adjust our schedule and events to accommodate the child. Now, obviously, there's times in our life when we do that, right? But not on a passive post. So, for example, Susan, she adjusted her schedule in response to Sean's whining, right? She adjusted her response when she said, if you do that again, you're going to get time out. Don't make me do this, right? I'm warning you, just one more, right? And so we accommodate them by not having the boundaries, right? And we don't follow through on those consequences. The third thing is she gave her power to her child and putting her in charge, right? Are you ready to go? Right? It's time to go, sweetie. Get on your shoes, meet me at the door, right? And so letting the children know that this is the power, right? Children want to be in charge. I remember children want us to be in charge. They also want to be in charge, but it has to be at the right time. I remember Mr. Rogers talked about the fact that children are needing. They want us to be in charge, right? They need to know what their boundaries are. One of my favorite quotes is, children are like water. They're everywhere. They're everywhere unless they're contained, right? And so they're going to bounce and bounce and bounce unless they know what those boundaries are. And they're wanting those boundaries, which is why they're bouncing, right? The other thing that Susan did, she blamed her child for her anger and her actions, right? Don't make me ground you, right? Well, actually, they're not making, right? You're driving me nuts, right? Susan said, don't make me send you to timeout, right? So state the consequence, right? State what the behavior is, state the reminder. If you go back and look at some of the previous videos, we've talked about the rule of 3, right? What's the expectation? State it. You state the expectation again, you remind them, right? But in that expectation comes the consequence, right? and then you follow through. The rule of three, it's pretty simple to do, but when we get so many things going on in our brain, it's hard for us to remember that. And then the next thing is we give children choices when really there's not any choices, right? Can you hop in the car and put on your seatbelt? That's that can you that I try to get the teachers to eliminate from their vocabulary, right? When it's an expectation, it needs to be stated as an expectation. So, hey, buddy, we're getting ready to go to grandma's. So hop in the car, put on your seatbelt. If you need my help, I'm happy to help you. But hop in the car and put on your seatbelt, right? They know exactly that. It's a clarity piece that they're looking for, right? Not can you or will you, right? Those are great questions when there is a choice. But if there is no choice, we state them as a choice and it messes them up here, right? And then the last one is we ignore a conflict in hopes it will magically resolve itself. I see the teachers all the time. So when you saw that today, because I'm watching from the booth, right? When you saw that today, you just got labeled. And they're like, what? And I said, you just got labeled that you're not going to do anything. So that child, you just had a defining moment with that child because you saw them poke or hit, but you didn't know what to do, so you just kind of turned the other way, right? Hoping that it would just magically disappear. So one of the things that we need to, as caregivers, as people who work with children, as parents, right? Susan taught her children how to treat her. And we do that quite often by the way that we have relationships with people, right? By letting the children control her, she lacked self-control, and unconsciously, she modeled irresponsibility, right? So once we give that power away, it's really difficult for us to get it back, right? And I love the fact that Dr. Bailey talks about the fact that Susan tried to fulfill her need to avoid upset, right? She was upset, but she tried to avoid it at the expense of the children's need for usable information. Right? So we always like to do a rewind, right? And I love it when the teachers will do the rewind when they say things the wrong way, or if they've done something that they're oh shoot, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that. Okay, rewind, everybody. We're going to rewind. I'm going to try it again, right? What a great example and modeling for the children to recognize that we make mistakes too, right? And so it could have been so much better if Susan would have just said, you guys, I am frustrated right now. I'm feeling this frustrated because we're supposed to go run the errands. I know that some of you don't want to go, but that's not a choice right now. So we all need to go run the errands. We all need to get our shoes on. I'm going to have a little timer here. In 5 minutes, we all need to be ready to go. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And what are you going to do? Right? It's the clarity that the kids are looking for. And so as you think about your parenting today and even your relationships, right, with others, maybe not parenting, do you fall into the passive category, right? Do you fall into the, I just want everybody to like me category? Because we all have power, and we need to hang on to that power so that we can be clear, and our relationships really will improve if we can decide how to help ourselves be clear rather than powerless and passive. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining. Give us a shout out if you'd like to.